Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Juliana, and I make videos about topics which I find sociologically fascinating. My last video was about Minecraft itself, and so I thought, hey, if I'm coming back from almost a year hiatus, why not make another video on Minecraft? So I took an essay I wrote that for one of my classes last year, and I edited it a little, and I wanted to see how it worked in video essay format. A while ago, I rode to church with an older woman from my congregation. At that time, I did not have my own car, so I relied on other people's goodwill and hospitality to transport me weekly to church. The older woman hardly knew me, nor I her, so she asked introductory questions to fill the silence between us. I mentioned the courses I took, and she takes an interest in the sociology of mass violence. She asked me for a definition, as well as how the topic relates to sociology. I defined sociology of mass violence as a course that analyzes acts of mass violence within the context of the necessary societies, histories, and systems of belief. After I gave my spiel on the course, she sat for a moment in silence, then asked, "How do video games relate to that?" She elaborated, expressing her belief that the rising popularity of shooter games makes players more violent. I attempted to say that the violence within video games is more a product of humanity's cruelty instead of the other way around, but I faltered as we pulled into the parking lot. I conceded my case to another day, left to consider the implications of violence in games and the violence within humanity in the adult Bible class. I then thought about the games I myself play. Minecraft tends to be classified sometimes as a cozy game by the community. Cozy games are games that tend to simulate slices of life or tend to be relaxing in nature. Minecraft specifically utilizes a fun game mechanic to acquire resources, which has since been exploited by the player base in various manners. The lack of responsibility for one's actions against the mobs in the game, the treatment of the mobs, and the justifications players make for their own behaviors echo back to concepts James Waller discusses in his book regarding perpetrators and violence. All of the following information in this essay regarding Minecraft comes from my 8+ years of experience with this game. Countless game updates as well as YouTube video essays and analyses make up the majority of my knowledge on this subject. As such, it is hard for me to get a source for every claim I make regarding the game. I can thus verify everything stated through my own gameplay and experience. Let me set the stage. Minecraft is a sandbox game which lets players do nearly anything they can imagine. The open, free-roam world facilitates adventuring and exploring. The massive catalog of blocks enables creative and stunning architectural and artistic builds. The redstone mechanics function as a miniature version of electricity and technology with which players can experiment. The multiplayer compatibility is the icing on the cake. You can partake in all of what I've mentioned with friends and family. Minecraft's popularity is obvious from the once small indie game being purchased by Microsoft, its explosion into media and culture, to the latest blockbuster film which came out in April. Minecraft is a household name, and for good reason. I personally play the game to bond with people in my life and take a break from reality. The game often generates places called villages. These villages differ based on the environment you find them and the randomized code of the game itself. Villages tend to have at least 5 structures. In these structures lie workstations, beds, and chests filled with loot. Workstations, structures, and beds all show players that villagers have their own flourishing society. In these structures live the inhabitants, known as villagers, shockingly. These villagers allow for trading with the player. Villagers hold different jobs. Farmers, for example, trade potatoes for emeralds. Emeralds themselves exist in the game for the sole purpose of trading with villagers. They have no other use. The more you trade with these villagers, the more trades you unlock, until the villager hits the rank of master in their work. The villager initially have trades with lower quality, like potatoes, but continued trades yield higher quality items, like armor or enchanting books. Trading with villagers can be an arduous task, requiring patience, persistence, and access to resources. Based on this description alone, one can think of a fair few ways that players can utilize the villages and villagers to their own advantages. The base game expects players to steal from the chests in the buildings. Loot, like weapons or food found in the structures, can be game-changing for new players. The game encourages players to take resources from the villagers. Players feel no reservation for stealing since the game provides no consequence for this act. I hesitated to steal the first time I found a village over 8 years ago, since I knew that stealing was wrong. My father recently had a discussion with another father who himself has a young child, and how they started Minecraft together. My father's friend had reservations about stealing from the villagers and setting a poor example for his child, but my own father reassured him that the game allows players to take the loot for a reason, implying no need to have reservations for this act. This example is a little silly, but it shows how evil behavior is normalized through situational influences, a topic which Waller discusses heavily in his book. The current world my friends and I play on is a prime example. Most of our beds come from the village which we pillaged in the world's infancy. While my friends and I only pillage, I know of other people who intentionally burn down villages and other structures in Minecraft for entertainment. Killing villagers can also be a pastime of players. These acts fit the first three aspects of genocide as defined by the United Nations. Number 1. Killing members of the group. Number 2. Causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group. Number 3. Deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. My friends and I justify our thievery by saying that the villagers don't need the beds. In the game, if a certain percentage of players sleep through the night is skipped. This is important because monsters spawn in the night. The villagers then do not need a bed since they hold no power to skip the night. A concerning outcome of this action lies in the fact that these villagers can now no longer repopulate their village. The code of Minecraft ties villagers to a certain bed. In order for villagers to have children, extra beds must be in the village. The village right by my friend's house lies abandoned. There were villagers residing there at one point. The lack of beds, however, means the villagers no longer have that tie to the village and cannot repopulate the village. Though we had no intentions of doing so, other playthroughs will intentionally abuse this bed mechanic. One definition of genocide includes imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. I do not intend to make a, quote, how to commit genocide Minecraft guide, but such a task would not be difficult. You may be asking, what need do villagers have for repopulating? In Minecraft, hostile mobs will attack both players and villagers. Hostile mobs, such as zombies and skeletons and spiders, spawn in if night is not skipped. My personal insistence on sleeping in the game comes from a desire to not be harmed by these hostile mobs. Players can die repeatedly to them. The consequence? A period of annoyance as the player respawns, seeks out their items, and fends off the mobs. Villagers, however, have only one life, and tend to not have the resources to defend themselves. When they die, they remain dead. Repopulation is necessary for the continued existence of the villagers, and that's how the circle of life in Minecraft works. The empty village near my friend's house serves as a reminder that people lived there before we arrived, before we colonized the surrounding areas. It's haunting. In addition to exploiting their homes, players find ways of exploiting the villagers themselves. As mentioned above, villagers tend to trade decent loot to players based on their jobs and experience. In my experience with the game, I tend to lock villagers in their homes, and I do this for two reasons. Number 1, they cannot be harmed by monsters if my fellow players choose to not sleep through the night. And number 2, I have constant access to the villagers at all times. I trade with them day in and day out until I get the trades I want. I tend to kind of make up for my offenses by providing extra beds to the village as a sort of treaty. If you let me trade with these villagers, your population will expand. Which, in a sense, is an attempt to exonerate myself through the comparisons I make. I'm not nearly as bad as other players because I at least make this treaty with them. So I'm not the problem. I'm not perpetrating violence at all. A mechanic in the game expands their potential for exploitation. If a zombified villager is cured of their zombification, the player who cured them receives a discount for all trades with that villager. My father abuses this mechanic by finding zombified villagers out in the wild, putting them in a boat, taking them to a village he made himself, housing them, and then curing them. I joke with him that it is a form of camp, but he insists that he made their lives much better. He states that they would have been killed otherwise, that they now have protection, housing, and purpose. The game mechanic was intended to help players save the villagers that they may have caused to have been zombified, not necessarily to exploit it. But the worst example of exploitation of these villagers I have seen requires its own section. The first semester of my junior year of college, one of my roommates made a world with our friends, which was just an odd hodgepodge of people we knew in the building. My other roommate and I joined the world later on. We logged on to find one of the friends built a villager farm. This farm holds 2 villagers captive in a small space. Food is given to them as they stand atop of beds. These villagers, detecting an extra bed nearby, then have a child, A minecart picks this child up and holds them for a day or two until they grow up to maturity. The cart then takes the villager past a zombie, infecting the villager to become zombified. The cart takes the zombified villager to a curing chamber. Out of the chamber comes a cured villager with discounted rates. The cart shuttles this villager to their final resting place, a cage with a workstation. Another aspect of the definition of genocide includes forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. My roommate said at the time, "I feel like you learn a lot about a person based on how they treat villagers." And after that experience, I wholeheartedly agree. My interest in the treatment of villagers grows each time I play the game. If people are inherently good, would every player want to treat these villagers with respect and compassion? On the other hand, if people are inherently bad, would every player want to exploit these villagers to maximize efficiency and utility? Most people I know lay somewhere in the middle. Waller discusses human nature and how we all have light and dark instincts, and I feel like this game proves that. The language surrounding villagers, however, largely remains derogatory. I hear a constant slew of insults thrown at the villagers for not behaving, which means doing the player's wishes. Waller discusses the linguistic dehumanization of the victims as well. I can treat the villagers with more hostility if I believe them to be dumb, unfeeling, and mere pixels in a game, as opposed to if I believe them to be intelligent, feeling characters in a digital environment that they've created. Players assume themselves to be more developed, more creative, and more powerful than the villagers who mill about their village. Perpetrators of extraordinary evil are themselves ordinary people. Quote, "While the evil of genocide is not ordinary, the perpetrators most certainly are." End quote. What could be more ordinary than playing a video game? This game, meant for relaxation, for entertainment, for friendship building, itself holds the potential for players to commit acts of violence. I do not believe the game developers intended this potential whilst coding the game in its various updates. The question, how can ordinary people commit acts of extraordinary evil, seemed to me an odd one to ask. Everything I have witnessed in this pixelated sandbox game illustrates exactly how ordinary people can commit evil acts. The general culture of cruelty explains the treatment of villagers by players. A culture of cruelty helps perpetrators initiate, sustain, and cope with their extraordinary evil by simultaneously rewarding and normalizing said evil. Rationalizations, group beliefs, and moral disengagements allow players to commit the acts they do while reducing their personal level of responsibility. Even in my own writing, I constantly refer to the villagers with the impersonal it pronoun instead of they, as I tend to do with other video game characters. I had to actively go back through this script and make sure I was treating them with the same level of respect I do as other video game characters. I understand that connecting people playing video games to perpetrators of mass violence seems like an odd connection, but it's a connection I feel bears significance. If people commit acts of violence in games with little to no prompt or order, is it so hard to believe that people could commit acts of violence in real life under group prompts, orders, and threats of life? Thank you so much for watching this video. Please leave any comments, questions, or suggestions in the comment section down below. Thank you and have a good day.